So this is where we're going to look at emerging technologies and the future of automation. I'm really delighted to have the team on stage. So first of all, we have Peter from Lloyd's. Okay.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Melanie, I want to describe you as our IA expert in the room, right? So Melanie's been working with us a lot with A1, recently left, and we'll find out where next soon. So welcome, Melanie.
Thank you.
And Clive, who's getting heckled. I'm sorry. So Clive from TJX. So they've been so quiet up until now. And Eric as our moderator. So I'm going to pass over to you. And Eric, after that, stay on time because we have awards to follow afterwards.
Love awards. So where do we start? Clive, we've looked at this, but what excites you most about the future of intelligent automation and why?
It's constant change. I love it. It's a challenge keeping up. I've got a good team. I shouldn't say it too much because they're here. But it's a good team and we're excited for what's coming. It's hard work at times keeping up, but that is change. It's where this AI stuff is going to take us, how we manage it, how we deal with it, how we look after it to make sure it's used properly, but also how we manage all of that in one place, which hopefully some products might help us with.
Yeah, let's hope so. Melanie?
I like the topic because I think it never gets boring. And I'm since 6 years already, or 6-7 years, in the automation topic. And what I see now upcoming with AI and so on, it's really exciting. And I think it will be a really interesting future for all of us.
Go on, Peter.
Yeah, so for me, we've been talking about intelligent automation for a long time, but probably with a small eye in terms of a lot of the solutions I think that are being built have been slightly overhyped. I think for the first time in a number of years now, I think we're starting to see true intelligent automation capabilities. And I think with new products that are coming on the market, the ability to build products and automation solutions far more quickly and easily without having effectively to be a software engineer or an automation specialist. I think that's kind of massive. I think not just to be able to design those solutions using tools, but to be able to effectively test those solutions, produce them, push them into live, run them, use intelligent automation capabilities to do all of that. I think it's quite exciting. So I think the entry level for automation solutions is definitely lowering. So those processes where previously you would have said, I can't automate that, the return on investment isn't great. I think we're seeing more and more processes that you can automate very quickly, very easily, very cheaply to improve individual productivity for colleagues and also improve customer service as well. So yeah, quite exciting.
Yeah. I don't know, this might be playing to what you said, but where do you think Gen AI will take you over the next 12 months? Where will you use it?
12 months is quite a short time frame, but I think for us, absolutely true.
Where we see too. You move fast.
Yeah, so with Gen AI, I think it's about extracting information on customers. So getting better customer insights to be able to hyper-personalise service. I think that's really where we're going. So lots of untapped information in unstructured data. How do we use Gen AI to use that data, to pull it out when we're talking to customers and use that to hyper-personalised service and to support them. So it could be, for example, to identify a financial need. It could be they're in financial difficulty. It could be they're potentially a victim of fraud. So how do we kind of use lots of rich information, lots of data about that customer to perhaps reach out to them and to be able to provide a service to prevent them coming to harm or to support them when they need us, really. So I think that's where Gen AI will play a role. I think we're starting on that journey.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's using it in a very advanced way. I think most organizations struggle to go beyond personal efficiency tools, to me. I mean, everyone's doing something, but the real value, it seems, from what I can find anyway, is on the personal level. So I think that's super exciting if you can put it in and use it and trust the outcomes and act on it in the next 12 months. I think that's in a bank.
I think, well, I say 12 months. I think we're starting on the journey.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll get there in 12 months, 100%. So,
Sure you will. Melanie?
Yeah, I think Gen AI can help in different use cases like we do it now, what you said. More complex ones, definitely. But on the other hand, it can really support developers or can enable business department to be a developer, which was not possible before. So like we saw today from Microsoft, they are bringing up citizen development. So it's there already, but even I think in the next 2 years, 1-2 years, even a lot of more people can be a citizen developer than they can do it now. And it's then a personal productivity thing, definitely, but also on the other hand, I think more business critical processes can be done from the business itself.
I just want to do a follow-up on that, because I think, the demo from Microsoft was awesome. It's a full automation done live. No offense, but it was a fairly simple process or task. Can you see, how would you see that sort of citizen development working, and would you trust it to go live from a citizen developer, or would you use it more as a really, really advanced PDD and version 0.5 of an automation?
I think you will still need a centralized team taking care about governance, GDPR, security and all that stuff, and be a stage of bringing really business crucial processes with a kind of governance live. But from the personal perspective, I think if it's just for you, for your personal desktop, it's not needed. They can do it on their own.
Yeah, I know you're kind of skeptic about non-scripted or free-willed automations.
At the moment, the free will stuff it's not going to fly. You need a human in the loop for Gen AI especially.
Yeah.
That human might be the developer. So if Microsoft's still here, we're very looking at co-pilots all the time.
Yep.
So the co-pilots that we get Power Platform, that's fine for a developer, but whether you would want someone just talking into it and then developing the process and flowing it, no. They need to know what the people who gain a lot from those co-pilots are the people who know what they're doing, because they know what they're going to ask for and get and check. That can save them time. We've proven it saves time, but not new scratch. The way we're using, or we're expecting the use of co-pilots, or Copilot Studio more precisely, is there's a massive interest in those chatbots that can look at documentation and pull that data out and display it and save time on those constant questions you get all the time. How do I? What do I? Where do I find? And we're a big company, but we've got a lot of pent-up requests for Copilot Studio building their own chatbots. So that's where we'll be using it most at the moment.
And when do you think we'll get to the autonomous agents that John was talking about, where they've already scanned your system, they know what the system does, and then you go, well, I want to onboard Clive, new employee Clive, onboard, and that's what you do.
We're probably not that far away, because they're all internal checking what you're doing. It's when you're showing stuff to external customers, I would have my doubts. When you're trying to display things there's already examples out there where people have used Gen AI and it's gone to legal cases, because I think Air Canada was a classic one.
I think someone was disbarred for coming up with all sorts of stuff.
But as long as I still think there needs to be someone, so you can check the onboarding has worked and fix the problems. So there will be help, and they will take you somewhere. But you've got to make sure they take you to the right place, because they still, I'm going to say make mistakes, because I don't like the other word you can use.
I've been told I'm not allowed to use those words today.
Yeah.
Melanie?
I liked what Microsoft said today, because it's always a bit about the data quality at first, and then also how can we rely on the answer of these agents. And today we heard that, the plan is to verify, to check, to give the technology the time to grow, and then that we can be confident that the answer is correct. And I think till then, it's important to make, maybe, like you said, the human in the loop to double check it, to verify, and then when you see it's confident solution, you can leave it alone and work it without the human interaction. Yeah.
You seem to agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So internal business processes, I think, where we should be using that sort of technology. And I think it's important that we have those guardrails in place. So I wouldn't want an autonomous agent to decide whether or not a particular check for a customer process was appropriate or not appropriate, and have a consistent customer outcome depending on from one day to the next. So that's the concern. So I think, as Clive has mentioned, having a human in the loop, I think, is really, really important. And where you've got those big, highly regulated processes that are customer critical, I think putting those to an autonomous agent, I think, is risky, in my view. Certainly at the moment, it could be, as the capability matures in the coming years, we may trust it more. But at the moment, I wouldn't trust it outside internal business processes and with a human in the loop initially. So
Yeah, I mean, Microsoft mentioned these things learn, and for the most part, I don't think our company will want them to learn and change what they do.
Yeah.
We want a consistent output, and that's what you can't guarantee from Gen AI at the moment. It'll happen, but not yet.
Yeah. I think we've got, obviously, business process management tools that we touched on earlier. So I think we'll still use those for those big, heavyweight processes that require a great deal of rigour, and then you need to have those checks and balances in place. They need to be auditable, etc. So I think, they aren't going anywhere, I don't think, for the next 2 or 3 years at least. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think Roboyo and I also mentioned push and pull for all of these AI technologies. So pull from the business and the push from leadership. How do you see that in Lloyd's?
So we've got so I guess Microsoft Power has become really big. So in terms of operating model, it's federated. So we look after a centre of excellence. So we kind of effectively we've got a number of hubs across the whole of Lloyd's. We've got about 80, 90 developers, and they work closely with their operational teams to build automating solutions. So that was originally mainly Blue Prism, and now a lot of those developers are using Microsoft Power, and there's a growing demand for Microsoft Power. And it's being actively encouraged. We're making those tools available with certain guardrails, so certain kind of access models. So we're not effectively making the full suite of products available to everyone to be able to do anything. So that needs to be certain kind of checks in place. They're running lots of sessions in terms of upskilling colleagues and just making the tooling available. They are, however, got in place some I guess stage gates and before solutions go live. So I guess we are immersing ourselves into these new technologies and capabilities, but with a degree of caution, really. So
it's manageable.
Yeah.
Melanie?
In my future job, starting from January on, there is mainly Microsoft Power Automate in use, and there are already about 150 citizen developers in place. And I think it's more both, it's push and pull, because on the one hand you need to tell the whole company what is possible, what is the Microsoft Power Automate platform, and then you get interested people all over the company to want to get a citizen developer. On the other hand, from the top management level, it must be supported, in my opinion. To give the people the freedom to have resources, to free up resources, to do this in their old environment where they did another job, for example, but can be able to be a citizen developer in future, because then they maybe do something else not anymore. So with goals from the top level, and also with passion from people who learn about Power Automate or other automation tools, I think it's pull and push both.
It's everybody is pulling and wanting more. We're finding now that the business people are going, well, I put that in ChatGPT and it did this for me. Like invoice reading. Someone put an invoice into our local copy of it, and they said, oh yeah, extracted all the data I needed. It's like, great, but... and so we're getting the pull from the people who would never talk IT before, because ChatGPT suddenly became massive. And then you've got the business people and the top management who are going, so why haven't we got this Gen AI thing? And everybody wants Gen AI to do their product and do their thing, when there's lots of easier, better ways of doing it, but you need to use Gen AI in their mind because it's the thing to use. And that's the thing we're trying to tackle, is making sure that it's used for the right thing. So we have got controls in place before we start rolling out these big things. But that's tough, because I can do it with I can do it with ChatGPT. Why can't I do it?
So do you see the organisation being blended by the sort of shiny, brand new toys and spending money in the wrong way, or are you able to, as an organisation, to spend it wisely and be sort of
we've locked them down quite heavily to stop them getting into the things, and there is boards and checks. The problem is that just adds time.
Yeah.
And the more AI comes along, the AI governance board, whatever you have, isn't going to be able to cope with all the demands. So there's checks and balances we need to put in place and allow some things through that are just safe.
Yeah.
But we're working through that. That's the biggest problem. How do you check and make sure that the wrong data isn't pulled together with the wrong data and it reveals everyone's home address or something like that when it shouldn't?
Right. I mean, you see research into this, and you see that there's been huge investments in Gen AI, not just from the vendors and hardware producers, but from companies. They want to use it, they use it. But there's a huge fear of and sign of death by 1,000 pilots. They're all pilots and they go nowhere. Do you see that, Melanie, or are we getting better at it?
I think at the moment a lot of pilots are everywhere. I don't heard many cases where really it's productive. So even there's one example at the One Telecom with a chatbot, for example. We used first the IBM Watson, and now they added in the chatbot for the customers. So when you go on the web page to get infos about your tariff, so on the customer front-end side, get all the cancellation infos, get infos about product upgrades and so on. And they used before IBM Watson. It was really hard to train, and the exception rate was quite high. And then a few months ago, they added, for example, ChatGPT to that, and it's now the exception rate is really dramatically lower than before. So this is one example which is live, for example. But really cases where you execute crucial things, where maybe you cancel a product or a customer, I think I'm not really aware of that it's done without any customer or human interaction at the moment. Maybe you have examples, I don't know. No.
Because you're not running, there's not a lot of pilots going on with Gen AI that goes nowhere?
Yeah, so there absolutely are. I think it's early days yet. I mean, interestingly, in terms of IDP is one good example where we spend a lot of time building models to read documents, and they have been pretty good after lots of fine-tuning, months and months and months, and then effectively put some prompts into an LLM and feed the document to the LLM, and you get better results. So I think that's probably one example where we've not actually yet got that solution live, but actually early testing is kind of saying this is actually probably going to be a game changer. So the idea will be that we would give that ability out to lots of colleagues across the organisation that we would own, effectively to say here's a user interface, plug into the user interface, and upload your document, or alternatively provide the user interface with access to where the document's stored, and then extracts some information from that document, rather than spending a lot of time building models using, I guess, a tool such as, an OCR tool, shall we say, without naming vendors. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good example. But and then there also seems, like you're saying, it seems to be an opportunity that the death by 1,000 pilots is just because 6 months ago the technology just wasn't as good as it is now. So now the pilots work and they go into production, so they're not the end. Cool. And how do you approach scaling automation and maintaining flexibility and adopting to new technologies? It's not an easy one. I've got an easy one after this.
All right.
The next one you get 2 seconds to answer.
So I guess for us, we've been running now since 2017. So we've been quite successful. We've as I touched on, operate a federated model. I guess it's for us, it's about making sure that it's easy to adopt an automation technology. So we're responsible for onboarding new products, creating new services, and enabling consumers to use those services quickly and easily. So I think that's kind of one of it. So they can focus on building solutions themselves, and also ensuring that we've got a support model in place. So effectively, we have a platform where those solutions run. We look after the platform. And also, I guess, run and to a certain extent kind of fix as well. And using products, dare I say, such as C2, Eric, of course, when things go wrong. So I guess by doing that, what we enable our developer community to do is to focus on using those products, using those capabilities. So whether that be Blue Prism, whether it be Microsoft Power, they can experiment with those tools without getting hung up with governance and run, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Is that your lab then?
The lab also looks after the Centre of Excellence. So yeah.
Yeah. So try anything, we'll take care of it. And if it scales, you then scale with it?
Yeah, so I guess we'll work in collaboration with other parts of the organisation and with other parts of, we've also got other capabilities, I think that we've touched on in terms of chatbots, natural language engineering functions. So we're part of a bigger platform, a bigger kind of ecosystem. We're at the forefront in terms of introducing new tech into the organisation and making that readily available for people to consume. So, yeah.
Cool. Melanie?
In A1, we are a multi-HL Scrum team. So we have 3 delivery teams and 1 run team. And if we decide to add to our ecosystem a new technology, like for example, the last time it was Camunda 2 years ago, we set up at the first step 1 separate team with this new technology, add some experts from external or some new team members, but also add some colleagues which are interested into this new topic. And then we start the first use cases, the first success stories. And after that, if we are confident this is the way we want to go in future, we expand the knowledge over all the rest of the teams, and we include it to every HL Scrum team. And so we ensure that the knowledge is everywhere, and we can use and combine all the different tools together in a scaled HL setup.
Cool. Interesting. That's a different approach. Cool. Clive?
We're set up very much like Lloyd's. So we've got federated teams, we've got a central COE that helps those teams learn and develop. One of the things we've done recently is set up, certainly for the power, and we're going to do it for Blue Prism as well, the certification course, that before they move into our managed environments where they can go from dev, test, prod, they have to do certification. And it's an internal TGX certification, not the Microsoft one. So we know they've done the testing, we know they've pushed it through. So we give them the base level knowledge to move on and understand what we're talking about. And I think that's been a really good move.
Yeah.
So it's sort of proof that they've tried and they want to do it.
I'm going to read this next question because it's super important.
Okay.
Is there a software or solution you rely on to scale automation while maintaining flexibility and adapting to new technologies?
Can't think
of one.
Nothing?
Can't think of one at all.
Oh, so is there a software solution you rely upon to scale automation while maintaining flexibility and adapting new technologies?
Could be C2, that actually. Yeah.
That's great.
Oh yeah, you're right. I think
Possible.
Thank you. What's your biggest challenge in aligning automation with the broader business goals, and how do you overcome it? I'm not going to say we've answered it, but...
So I guess for us, there's probably still a challenge. So we use robotics quite extensively. We've got a lot of legacy tech, but we're investing in new automation solutions, straight-through processing, API calls, etc. I think so. The business will want an automation solution delivered that's cheap, that's quick. And we have, as we touched on, federated teams that work alongside the operations. So I think will always be a slight bit of tension in terms of the strategic goals of the organisation and what we should be doing versus, let's say, something that's tactical that can potentially create technical debt. So probably you've got the enterprise architecture community wanting to do the right thing, setting the vision, the roadmap, the strategy, the IT architecture, and then the business operation teams that are focused on reducing costs and looking at implementing an automated solution that is going to deliver, benefit, drive, improve customer service at a very, very low cost. So I think there's still that probably tension in terms of between those two parties, really. So I think
Tobias, we have the same tension. Melanie?
It's similar what you said. At the beginning of our automation journey, we had a lot of complaints from the IT department, especially from the architecture board. You're holding back the transformation story. We have our transformation plans of our legacy systems, and you are automating this stuff now, and so on. And what we did is we introduced one step before we start developing, and it's called a Get ID Architecture Check. In our workflow process. So we give them the new potential, the new idea, give them a short overview, and the IT architecture board can say then, no, you're not allowed because the system will shut down tomorrow or whatever. Or they say, okay, go for it. And since we did this, I think almost nearly 99% were still okay. So they were just complaining, but at the end they are okay with. And since then, it's stable.
Yeah, we're on a very similar journey, so at the moment, yeah.
Clive?
Yeah, there's a tension between our federated teams and the product teams. And we're trying to ease that by getting them to talk earlier. It's sort of like, why are you trying to hit our system overnight with 50,000 records? It'll fall over, so we won't do that many, we'll do 25,000, whatever you say. But getting them to communicate and getting the product teams to understand that these automations are absolutely needed by the business. Especially some of the ones we have running now, if they fell over, the business hasn't got the people to support the gap. But the product teams are a little reluctant to let go a bit because they want to do everything on the product, whereas the business are going, we need to do this. But it's not a high priority because it's only 25 people. It's not a massive company-wide thing. It's this small group need to do this thing. If we can automate it, we'll automate it. So there is a tension between the IT and the business, and we're trying to ease that in a few different ways, mainly by letting the IT teams know that this is coming, and what do you think? Most of the time they're happy, they know. They don't stop it. Sometimes they get a little worried if we're going to do it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when the US are just coming in.
Yeah. It's got a new feature idea. You see response times going down on the target system by a certain amount. You can start strangling how many items you push through.
That would be a good feature.
Someone making a note in the product team. All right, we're not in a place where automation and orchestration of it is managing it is fully autonomous. Spoke earlier about reporting has been a thing where people want more reporting and so on. My goal is actually at C2, or with C2, there shouldn't be any reporting. It should be autonomous. It should be, you don't get a report from your CRM system that 80 or the 80 new contacts you added are in the system. And so on. It should just work. It should just effing work. So that's the sort of goal. We shouldn't need reporting because it just always works. And I guess that's why I think you should also focus on the SLA, because if the SLAs are good, it works. But you want everything to be like that. Anyway, in the meantime, you have, you need to ensure you have the teams with the right skills and mindset to thrive in this evolving landscape, but also how do you retain them? So how do you upskill them, and once you've done it, how do you retain them? prized assets. Melanie?
I'm going to look. I have no idea how I retain them.
Because you're just an awesome boss.
It's the only thing I can think of, you know.
But he's good at it. Just to be clear.
I mean, in terms of education, we have, as I mentioned before, we have a multi-scrum agile setup with a bi-weekly sprints, and there we introduced some, it's called education user story. So everyone in the team can take his time or her time to take the time in the sprint for education of new stuff, even it's AI, if it's a new tool, whatever. But so we can try to keep the team up to date, motivated to learn always new things, and also our mindset in the team is inspect and adapt. So if we see there should something be changed maybe or improved, then we try to think about, can we do it with the existing tool set? Is it the existing ecosystem but maybe differently used? Or do we have to add a new snippet to our ecosystem?
Yeah.
We're very similar to Melanie in terms of the way we operate, in terms of agile 2-weekly sprints. And setting aside time for spikes for people to learn. And we try and encourage people to spend roughly about half a day a week learning something new. So that could be to do your job better today, it could be for your next role, or it could be a future career. And creating a culture where you celebrate successes and failures. So if people are trying something and they don't succeed, and we've learned something from it. So it's kind of trying to create the right environment where people don't feel, they feel safe and secure and encourage learning. So they've got lots and lots of different learning resources. So people like to learn in different ways. So whether that's doing a course, listening to a podcast, effectively doing side-by-side kind of a development activity. And the things like lab show and tells, I think are really, really good, that we run every couple of weeks. So at the end of the cycle, what has someone been working on over the last sprint, and get the team to come together to find out what other people are working on, which might then pique an interest and go, oh, next time I might come and work alongside you. So I think just creating that learning culture helps people to stay motivated and feel as if they are progressing, not stagnating. So.
As I said, we have this multi-scrum team setup, so 4 teams doing mainly automations. We introduced then also the community of practice, it's called, so to build over the skills, for example, of a developer, of an analyst, of a designer, also over the 4 teams, a connectivity in a group that they can exchange what you said, so that if someone learned something new or has an issue, you can give it to the whole team and not just to your dedicated Scrum team. Yeah.
We don't do general. Well, they're pushing the technologies all the way through the sprints, but we have an IP sprint, innovation and planning sprint at the end, and basically the team are allowed to go, I want to have a look at this bit, I want to have a look at this. So they're looking for things that they can do during the innovation sprint to push us forward. So we give them the freedom to a point, as long as they're pushing where we're going forward, then they can look at anything. It's learning, it's training, it's what the heck does Copilot Studio do? Is one of the things we asked at one point. And it's all of that. So there's giving them a freedom to, in their innovation space, to do innovation. So it's a similar sort of thing, it's just ours is all concentrated at the end.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it looks like with all the changes and new stuff coming in, they'll be kept busy learning new stuff. Final quick question, I hope. What's the one piece of advice you would give to organizations looking to future-proof their automation strategies? If you don't have the answer, you can take away strategies and then it's an easy answer. Yeah.
So I think it's kind of, having the right operating model in place, having the right guardrails in place. Having the right tech in place, taking your key stakeholders with you, really. So on your journey.
Thanks, Melanie.
I think test a lot of things. Try to be at the edge, but be a bit patient if you go then into the production environment and have a lot of checks before. Be always crucial for the new things and check it out.
I would say if you're starting off in this journey, start off small. Don't go for the big, beautiful, pretty thing. Go for the thing that you can prove quickly and do. But more than that, ongoing, build small and bring it together. Now, C2, like this, helps us. If you build small, it's the really right way to do. If you have one process that deals with one application, C2 will manage the linking between it using work queues and things like that, certainly on Blue Prism side. Whereas before C2, we were building massive processes that did everything, and it's hard to manage them. So I would build small, even if you're not using C2, but C2 lends itself to this. Build small so that if you have to replace a small component, be it a chatbot or you build, it's replaced with an API. It's easier to replace that smaller component than it is this big monolith that you built. So I would build small and bring it together with a tool or with a big process.
Perfect ending. I have to admit something, because I talk about composability, best of breed, and build in small modules, components all the time. Clive was the first one that brought this to my attention. I think 2 months after you implemented C2, you said we changed our design model completely.
Yeah.
So
well,
thank
the
you.
original marketing was you could just move your stuff across.
Yeah.
And when we moved it across, we went, well, this isn't going to get any benefit at all. We get a little bit, but once we take it apart and just throw it into C2 using the work queues, it works so much better.
Yeah, and you've had amazing results. Thank you so much, everyone. I think we're bang out of time, so no questions. I'm sorry.
Thank you to the panelists.